Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another live stream. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking. All right. So, real quick, shouts out to everybody that's in here early already. We got Abby in the building, we got Carlton Way in the building, we got Janesta in the building. What up with it, Janesta? We got Carla Lockhart. Looks like that's who we got up in here. What's good with y'all? Good to see y'all. Hope everybody is doing great. All right. Got a question for everybody that's in here right now. I was thinking about doing another live stream after I get done with this one because there's just a lot of stuff that's going on that I want to try to get to, and I haven't been able to get out as much content as I want to get out. You know what I mean? So hopefully I will be able to do that. So I'm gonna try to speed through this one. So if I am not into the comments as much as I usually am, I apologize. It's just because I'm trying to get through the material because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. All right. So real quick, make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed already, all you got to do is hit the bell icon twice. Make sure that you subscribe to the backup channels, and also make sure that you check out my other social media. You can do that by hitting the about page, or you can do that by hitting the description box. Shouts out to Volvo. What up with it, Volvo? Good to see you. So my question for everybody is, did anybody get an opportunity to check out this article by the New York Times? This article is called "Buffalo Shooting Highlights the Rise of Hate Crimes Against Black Americans." All right. Federal data shows a recent spike in assaults, threats, and incidents of bias. Now, when is the last time you heard about this on the news? When is the last time you heard about this in the mainstream media? My question is, have you? Let me know in the comments if you guys have heard anything about this. So let's actually get into this article. All right. And as you guys can see, it's fairly new. It's not that new. It's about a month old, but it's still, kind of important as far as I'm concerned. The racist slaughter at the Buffalo grocery store on Saturday is the latest episode in a troubling rise of violence against African Americans built upon historic racial fault lines and a polarized social climate. Now, let's break that part down. Shouts out to my man TD Hip Hop Media. What's good with it, bro? If you guys are not subscribed to the channel, mods, excluding TD Hip Hop Media, because he's gonna take his ass all day, please throw the link to TD Hip Hop Media in the chat so that y'all can go over there and check out my man's channel. He puts out some great content over there. You know what I'm saying? So I think, matter of fact, TD actually did a video about this that talked about this today, if I'm not mistaken. And TD actually had the receipts from the FBI report that showed that there's a huge gap between how many more hate crime incidents happen to Black people than any other group in the United States, including AAPI and including the LGBTQ, who recently got hate crime bills signed by Joe Biden. And then also that report shows that the increase that happened is higher than the increase that happened with the other groups. So we have a total amount of crimes that take place that's higher, significantly higher, and also higher rise in those incidents. All right. So I find that fascinating. And this is something that you don't hear about in the mainstream media. This particular paragraph right here: troubling rise of violence against African Americans built upon historic racial fault lines and a polarized social climate. So let's just take this into consideration. Not only are we not getting any hate crime protection, but we're also not getting any publicity for this. And the way that they're spinning these stories is that they're making it as if we are the face of all of the hate crimes that go on in the United States. So there's a media blackout as well as a concurrent propaganda machine going to not only not show how we're being attacked, but also to show us as the attackers of others. So again, that brings us to the same situation that we always face when it comes to dealing with the United States government. The United States government has made it clear when you provide hate crime protections for everybody else and the people who are getting hate crimes committed against them the most have no protection, what you're doing is facilitating open season on the group of people that's getting the most hate crimes. You're saying that there's consequences for harming Asians, there's consequences for harming LGBTQ. Your only option is if you want to harm somebody, the least likelihood of you facing a heavy consequence is if you harm black people. We're not going to give any media coverage about it, and we're not going to give them any special protection. So, as usual, the government is treating things the way that the government is treating things. And for people who believe that there's some way that you can work with the government like that, in my opinion, that's delusional. These are things that are happening concurrently. Passing a hate crime bill is free, and they won't do that, let alone dropping a lump sum of money somewhere. So, like everything, when you realize that you're a victim of abuse, when you realize that there's an agenda against you, you're faced with two ultimatums. The first ultimatum is to sit around and talk about how bad it is while it's happening. The second ultimatum is to do something about it, to deter it yourself. Me personally, I'm heavily biased towards option 2. Not really a fan of option 1. And we'll get to that later. In 2020, a year marked by the triple forces of the coronavirus pandemic, the murder of George Floyd, and the social justice movement protesting police violence and racism, the FBI reported a surge in hate crimes targeting African Americans. You guys see that? You guys see that? So now here's my question. What is anybody doing to deter people from doing this? That's my question. Anybody. And that includes the government, that includes the mainstream media, that includes us ourselves. How are we defending ourselves from this? That's the question. And if nobody's doing anything, including us, is there a reasonable expectation of defense? Is there a reasonable expectation that these things will decline? That's what we have to ask ourselves. This is basic shit. About 64.9% of the 8,052 reported hate crime incidents that year were based on race, ethnicity, or ancestry bias, according to the FBI. Within that category, Black Americans made up more than half of the victims. Shouts out to my man Peter. What up with it, bro? So now were you guys aware of this? Is the question. About 64.9% of the 8,052 reported hate crime incidents that year were based on race, ethnicity, or ancestry bias. According to the FBI, within that category, Black Americans made up more than half the victims. So I find it interesting. The people that commit most of these hate crimes, because most hate crimes committed against Black people are at a 75% rate white people. The very people that say stop being a victim are the very people that are victimizing people. But it's usually that case all the time. It's usually that case all the time. And again, the majority of those people is who we're supposed to have a friendly negotiation with. We're supposed to come to the table and do what exactly? That's my question. What is it that we're supposed to do? Okay, we're at the table. Now what? You saw what happened when they went to the table with Joe Biden for the civil rights leaders. That's the way it's been in every conversation. Yet and still, for whatever reason, some people think that something is going to change. That's the mental damage that religion does to people. Faith and hope. And we're just going to supersede logic and think that just regular patterns that occur are just going to not occur at some point because maybe they just won't. That's usually not how anything works. And the evidence actually is very much in my favor for that claim. So again, different approaches may be the way to go. So now here it says the number of reported hate crimes against African Americans in 2020 was 2,871, up from 1,972 in 2019. That spike drove a nearly 9.1% increase in hate crimes overall. In the 5 years before 2019, African Americans victim African American were victims in about half of all race, ethnicity, ancestry, or bias cases, according to the FBI and data. And now you got to remember that when it comes to violence against Black people, the FBI and the all these different organizations, they all try to downplay it. So these numbers automatically are underreported. These numbers are already automatically underreported. So now here it says experts who track data caution that federal numbers are incomplete and that some of that spike might be the result of increased awareness and more willingness to report such crimes. Yet they say the attention to social justice might itself have spurred more violence against targeting Blacks. Now here's my question. Do you guys agree with that? If you guys agree with that, give me a thumbs up in the chat. If you disagree with that, give me a thumbs down. Let me know what you guys think. So now here it says the year 2020 changed the trajectory of prejudice in some ways to refocus on Black Americans, in part because of the social justice protests following the murder of George Floyd, said Brian Levin, director of the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at California State University of San Bernardino. While national hate crime statistics for 2021 have not yet been released, hate crime experts say the assault on Black Americans and institutions has continued. About a third of the nation's historically Black colleges and universities were targeted with bomb threats this year, along with more than a dozen houses of worship and other faith-based academic institutions, according to the FBI. What do you guys think about that? When's the last time you heard a special report on 60 Minutes about that? When is the last time you opened up a newspaper and saw that on the headlines or anywhere? When is the last time a major cable news network talked about that? So what's the response? There's a lot of concurrent hate crimes going on. The most important and most priority hate crimes that are going on are the ones that could take you out or kill you physically. The ones that people are actually perpetrating against people. Then there's the hate crime of social isolation and containment that the media and the government does, not providing us with a hate crime bill, despite the fact that clearly there's evidence that shows that there's nobody that shouldn't be in support of one. So now my question is, the government not taking action, the media not providing coverage, what does that tell you? And it should tell you something that's very easy to pick up. No one's going to protect you other than you. The government's not coming. If this isn't evidence that the government's not coming, I don't know what is. But a lot of people like to live in delusion. You know what I'm saying? It makes them feel better, makes life a little bit more tolerable. It is what it is. This is the reality right here. The government's not coming. There's a dire situation. There's an epidemic of hate crimes against Black people. The government's not coming. The news isn't coming. Nobody's coming except for Peyton Gendron. So now what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it for ourselves? Because see, the thing is that when we sit around and expect assistance, when we sit around and expect cooperation, the problem is that again is a dropping of the ball of a power dynamic. If somebody says, well, I'm going to grant you XYZ amount of dollars, they're going to have influence in how you spend that XYZ amount of dollars. If you do your own thing, you can do what you want to. In my opinion, the most important thing that we should do is do our own thing. We don't need to do or say anything to the government. We don't need to sit around and expect them to rescue us. Would they? Would they? What if the government ever rescued us from? My man Carlton Way says if we can't get an anti-black hate crime bill, that means we got a long way to getting reparations. That's the reality. The only thing this costs, an anti-black hate crime bill, the only thing that costs is a pen and a piece of paper. A pen and a sheet of paper. And as you guys see, Joe Biden gives away pens like they're going out of style. And we've got plenty of paper. Now, I just sent Bronze to God and I sent TD Hip Hop Media a video. It was a video about when Crystal Ball went on Bill Mayer's show. All right. And Bill Mayer was talking about the economy, and him and Crystal Ball were debating. And then after that segment, Jimmy Dore went through all of these numbers of expenditures that the government was doing. There was one point when there was $1 trillion a day being spent. This is the reality. This is it. If $1 trillion a day can be spent and is not being spent on us, it ain't going to be spent on us. We have to extort. We have to get grimy. We have to get calculated. And we have to get this shit ourselves. In my opinion, Carlton's comment right here is perfectly logical. When is the last time the United States gave anybody anything beneficial without terms and conditions? That's my question for you guys. And what makes us different? It's not like we're Russia. It's not like we're China. The United States won't even sit down with or cooperate with countries that have the same amount of nuclear weapons as they do. What kind of leverage do we have? In my opinion, the best leverage that we have is to build a strong economic base and use knowledge of economics to slowly but surely get things in a position where we can change prices according to things that we need. Build up super PACs, start up a think tank, start up a couple think tanks. But the problem is that takes a lot of work. That takes a lot of dedication. And that's when you find out when people are just talking because they want something, or if they're actually willing to sacrifice and actually do it. Shouts out to Jay Bird. What up with it, bro? And in my opinion, the evidence shows that people like to hear themselves talk. That's why there's so many YouTube channels, because people like to hear themselves talk. That's why there's so many YouTube channels, and that's why people watch so much YouTube, because people like to hear themselves talk. People also like to hear people say the same shit that they say, because that's reinforcing. That's like an echo chamber. Oh, this person said it. That's how I feel. I must be right about something. Maybe you're right. Or maybe you and that person have the same, incorrect thought process, whatever the case may be. And I got to agree with Carlton. A think tank would be perfect. So now here it says racially motivated violence took center stage again in February when 3 white Georgia men were convicted of a federal hate crime for chasing down and killing Ahmaud Arbery because he was African American. The trial stood out for its unvarnished examination of racism. And honestly, the way that they're covering this, in my opinion, this didn't even examine the most nefarious kind of racism that was involved with the Ahmaud Arbery case. Shouts out to Jay Bird, man. Be careful on that drive, bro. In my opinion, one of the most egregious parts of the Ahmaud Arbery case was the fact that the DA, Jackie Johnson, tried to initially let the killers off and get them out of not even going to trial or being arrested. And she was able to do that because of her connections on the inside. In addition to that, She then acted as if she was recusing herself from the case and installed another district attorney who her son had worked for. But see, the New York Times, they're not saying anything about that. They just want you to keep the focus on George Floyd. Keep the focus on George Floyd so that white people can turn around and say he's a criminal. Okay. Last time I checked, we still allegedly lived in a civilized country. And allegedly, according to the Constitution, you're supposed to be able to go to trial for your crimes. So that's what I thought. But I know what the Constitution means. I know what we the people means. I know all of those dog whistles. So now here it says the FBI releases a report of hate crimes annually, but the federal tracking system does not require police agencies to submit data, and a significant number of victims may not report bias crimes to the police. And the police just may not come with the hate crime charges. There's that. The underreporting, like I said in the beginning, creates an imprecise portrait of the scale of hate crimes nationally, but the report still offers a useful snapshot of broad trends. In recent years, the Justice Department has encouraged victims to report bias and made prosecuting the crimes a priority. Now, do you feel that hate crime prosecution is a priority? If you guys feel that hate crime prosecution is a priority and has been, give me a thumbs up in the chat. If you feel that it's not a priority and it's not being addressed as appropriately as it should be, give me a thumbs down or an angry face in the chat. Okay. Now, my question is, what is the motivation for the government not giving black people a hate crime bill? What would be the motivation for that? Because there has to be some kind of motivation for them to not do it, since they're just giving up so much hard time, so much resistance to something so simple. There has to be a reason for it. So my question to you guys is, what is that reason? What is the reason for the hard time? Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we got 11 people watching and we got 13. If y'all haven't, please make sure y'all smash that like button so we can get to 24. So now here it says the FBI report released last year based on data collected in 2020 from more than 15,000 law enforcement agencies showed the highest spike in hate crimes in a dozen years. Numbers driven largely by increases in incidents against Black and Asian Americans. So, it just can't be specifically for Black. We got to dilute it a little bit. That coffee too strong. Got to dilute it just a little bit. Got to dilute it. So now here it says the FBI defines a hate crime as a crime against a person or property motivated by bias. That can include everything from bomb threats and vandalism to physical violence and murder. Federal data shows that in the past decade, hate crimes against Black Americans, who make up 12.1% of the population, have far, far exceeded those reported against any other group, including based on victims' religion, ethnicity, or sexual orientation. And yet, out of this lump of people, we are the only ones without a hate crime bill. Why? Because we've been designated as a permanent underclass. If anything good is done for us, specifically, that will disturb the racial hierarchy, which means that what we need to be doing is good for ourselves to dislodge the racial hierarchy. But see, I don't think that most Black people are of that mind state. I don't think most Black people know where to start or how to start to even do that. And honestly, I don't think that there's even a desire. I think that people really are just comfortable complaining about the way shit is, and we can win the gold medal about shit happening to us. Me personally, I'm tired of shit happening. I'm tired of seeing people always looking to victimize us as if there's just no consequence. My man TD Hip Hop Media woke up. Shouts out to TD Hip Hop Media. He says, how's the population number keep going down? We went from 14% to 12% in 3 years. That's a good question. I mean, maybe there's that many hate crimes going on that it knocked us down a whole 2%. Knocked us down a whole 2%. You know what I'm saying? In order to get accurate or competing statistics, you guys know what I always say, we got to collect our own data. Think tank. And then we got to manufacture politicians that can use the information that we create. That's what the Manhattan Institute is doing with Fox. And Fox then routes that to Ron DeSantis. This is important right here. Crimes against, look at this, hate crimes against Black Americans far exceeded those reported against any other group. Now, if you talk about hate crimes against Black Americans, the first thing white people, Asian people, and Latino people will say is, what about Black on Black crime? What about it? What about AAPI on AAPI crime? That shit happens too. What about white on white crime? That shit happens frequently. Usually ends up with a bunch of kids in a classroom dead. What about it? Oh, well, you know, if we do something, that's just divisive. But it wasn't divisive to give AAPI people a hate crime bill. It wasn't divisive to give LGBTQ a hate crime bill. Oh, I got it. So this is the real issue. The real issue is that if a Black person is acknowledged as an American, treated as an American, afforded the same rights and privileges as an American, and the political system considers Black people as constituents, the notion of that is divisive. So that should tell you where we're at with the population at large, and that should also tell you where we're at with the government. But again, some people are under the delusion. Some people are under a delusion that these people are going to work with us somehow. Okay. All right. According to the data, 20,084 instances of anti-Black crimes were reported over the past decade. The next largest category in that time period was anti-J crimes, which included 7,688 reports. So these people go around and woo, 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 and woo, woo, woo. And these are the very people. Shouts out to Gad Sad and his hot iron that he uses to curl his sideburns. Well, we had it first than Black people. Tell that to those 20,084 victims of anti-Black crimes. Here's the numbers right here. So now here it says the man accused of the attack in Buffalo, a white 18-year-old armed with a semi-automatic rifle and a white supremacist ideology embraced during the idle hours of the pandemic, opened fire at a supermarket in a mostly Black neighborhood several hours away from where he lived. Authorities say he killed 10 people and injured 3 others, almost all of them African American. Now, you know what white people have been saying on Twitter and stuff like that? How can this guy be a white supremacist if he killed white people? That's very easy because white supremacists are criminals and criminals kill whoever. White supremacists kill white people. I mean, what does that have to do with supremacy? What does that have to do with anything? The Hells Angels are a white supremacist motorcycle gang. Guess what? They kill other white supremacist motorcycle bikers who are in rival gangs. I don't understand why the brain breaks down. Honestly, I don't think it does. Question: what are elected officials doing about this? You guys think that these reports crossed their desk? If you guys think that these reports cross people's desks, elected officials, give me a thumbs up. If you don't think that, give me a thumbs down. So now here it says, in a screed, the suspect posted online detailing his plans. He made clear that they were driven by hate, scrawling a racist slur on his weapon and referring to replacement theory, a far-right belief that the white population is at risk of being replaced by people of color and immigrants. The mass shooting, which the Justice Department is investigating as a potential hate crime, parallels other racial violence born from white supremacy, such as the massacres in a black church in Charleston, South Carolina, a Pittsburgh synagogue, which I don't understand how this is racial violence, a Walmart in El Paso, where the shooting suspect complained of Hispanic invasion. And again, I don't see how this is a racial thing. You have two groups of white European descendant people. You know, I don't understand that. So now here it says contemporary universe of hate crimes against African Americans is a combination of old and new strains of bigotry. Those who study it would say it includes enduring fear of a demographic shift and replacement brewing in pockets of the internet, often stoked by racist political rhetoric. Now, here's my issue. Why is racism just such a, I don't know, why is it so, why does it affect black people so much? And when I say racism, I'm talking about racism. I'm not talking about systemic white supremacy. We all know that white supremacy affects black people and it needs to be destroyed. But I'm talking about racism. I'm talking about white people being mean. Don't anybody know how to be mean back? Like, I'm sorry, but racism does not intimidate me. And I don't know why anybody allows racism to intimidate them. Maybe it's because I was exposed to it at such a young age. I'm just really numb to it. And I actually look for it so I can go heads up with it because it is just so easy to deal with. But I just don't understand why that's so paralyzing for some people. I mean, that's really a way to affect people emotionally. The Democrats been scaring black people into voting Democrat based on fear of racism for so long. I mean, I got a question for you guys. Do you guys ever notice how the images that they show on TV in the civil rights era are all Martin Luther King marching with a bunch of black people getting their asses whooped, beat, and washed up and down the street with water hoses from the police and the fire department? And they never show footage of the Black Panthers or the Deacons of Defense. They never show any videos of that. They rarely show old videos of Muhammad Ali, you know, saying whatever it is that he wants to and having an out of control interview. They never show that. They want you to be proud of just, you know, just being a complacent little lamb. We won't hit back. We're going to be nonviolent. Shouts out to Shiri. What up with it, Shiri? That's my question. When people, I don't understand. Why does that affect people so bad? Why does that hurt people's hearts so bad? Seriously. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? They don't never talk about how Nat Turner was chopping people up. That's one of the reasons, in my opinion, why I think Martin Luther King got a holiday. He told black people the right thing. Just let people use you as a punching bag. And people have just continued to do it. I just want to tell everybody for real, that looks really bad. I don't know what kind of delusion people are living in where they don't think that other people see that shit or where that somehow looks like acceptable or something like that. But man, that looks really bad. That's a bad look. The way we handle shit, it's a bad look. And honestly, in my opinion, it's part of the reason why it continues to perpetuate. See, because when it comes down to the streets, there's people that people know who not to mess with, and then there's people that people know who to mess with. And we're the people to mess with. Who wants to be the people to mess with? Who wants to wear that as a badge? It's an old theme in white supremacists dating back decades, many decades, said Janine Bell, a professor at Indiana University Maurer School of Law and an expert on hate crimes. They've long been worried about white replacement, she said. And I imagine when times got tough as they are now, there are more worries about it. Dr. Bell also attributed the recent anti-Black hate crimes in part to backlash against the protests following the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Those protests brought out a lot of anger about African Americans, a lot of support, but also a lot of anger, she said. Black victimization was in the news. And if it's anything that angers white supremacists, it's seeing African Americans being seen sympathetically. In my opinion, we shouldn't seek to be seen sympathetically. We need to be feared. I'm tired of this soft ass shit. Motherfuckers want pity. We need to be working towards being feared. Just have pity on us. Just don't hurt us. Are you crazy? Shiri says one factor is Christianity, two are fear and cowardice. Once you admit that white people are scary, you can move beyond it. I don't feel that white people are scary. What's so scary about them? In order to admit that, that have to be something that I believe, but I don't believe that. I haven't seen any evidence of that. So my thing is, why would anybody admit that? I don't understand. My man Carlton Way says a savage's love language is not nonviolence. Black people have been speaking the wrong language with these white supremacists for a long time now, purposely doing it and being led to do it because people are too lazy to think with their own damn brains. Start doing some damn independent thought. It's never okay for somebody to slap you in one face, and the normal reaction is not to turn your cheek and get smacked in the other. My man TD Hip Hop Media says King actually woke up too and acknowledged that he was soft shoe cooning and started getting more aggressive towards white America and the governments in his speech. Yeah, I agree. Facts. But that was the last 3 years of his life that doesn't get acknowledged. I think it doesn't get acknowledged by white people in the mainstream media. I think for the most part, like us, most of us who know what time it is, we acknowledge it and we understand. Me personally, I don't acknowledge it as much because I assume that most of my subscribers know about it. And I acknowledge the part of what he was doing that was the most damaging. And in my opinion, telling people not to defend themselves was the most damaging. One thing that you can't do is encourage people who have not historically shown a large amount of motivation to not do shit. You need to be giving tasks, not telling those people not to do shit, because you need to somehow stimulate the motivation. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says Dr. Bell said it was not easy to trace the source of an increase in hate crimes, but major events like the protest in the summer of 2020 provide a helpful touchstone. It's easy to say that there's probably been an increase in anti-Asian hate crimes, Dr. Bell said. What happened? There was an event, a pandemic, a large number of anti-Asian hate crimes associated with pandemics started happening. Hate crimes against African Americans are particularly difficult to count aggregately, Dr. Bell said, and because of lacks of groups dedicated specifically to tracking such crimes. And why is that? The government's not going to set up any groups because they don't care. They need us to continue to be knocked off. And it's a lack of motivation, lack of capability, and a lack of interest on our part, because we should already have these. This would be what a think tank does. It would be like Pew Research Institute. If people spend as much time worrying about keeping themselves alive as they worry about dating, then maybe somebody would have time to count some damn hate crimes. You know what I'm saying? But that's not the priority. And since that's not the priority, you don't see an improvement in the situation. And the improvement's not going to come out of the sky. And improvement is only going to happen if we improve. Yeah, I agree. I have a dream Martin Luther King was more palatable for white supremacy. I agree. And that's a lot of what people spend their time doing. That's what a lot of people spend their time doing. Well, here's my thing. First of all, let's examine this. Is going to the polls exactly what we need to be doing, first and foremost? And second of all, we have to question the culture. Why is it so easy for anybody to scare black people? Isn't that embarrassing? Isn't that some goofy shit? Who gets scared? That's some shit you do as a kid. And what do they do that's so scary? Like this, like if the propaganda that the media puts out, if that weak shit actually scares people, that shows the genetic cowardice that people have. You see what I'm saying? And so what people need to ask themselves is your cowardice genetic? Like is this just the curse? Or is it a behavioral issue? Bronze of God says, which a lot of King's clips are edited and modified to make whites more comfortable as well. Yeah, and it's probably edited and modified by them. You know what I mean? Hunt you from their trucks. Okay, so here's my question. How come we don't have guns and how come we ain't out hunting people? And how come we ain't putting in defenses? Like, I don't know. How come we don't have bears chained up in front of our houses? How come anytime there's a self-defense instance, it's not a gruesome, gory self-defense? I don't. Let somebody try to hunt me down in a truck. I don't care. Somebody's getting taken out with me. You're not gonna catch me running. Maybe we should. Maybe we should, or just continue to be target practice. That's because of religion. Death is a part of life. What do people think they were before they were born? You don't remember that shit. Everything was okay then. This is cowardice. You know what I'm saying? This is knock-kneed, bug-eyed nonsense. And people need to acknowledge that shit. You know what I mean? You could die every day. Now, the same people that are scared to die throw the chopper up through the whole neighborhood. You know what I mean? So, and I agree. Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker. But now my question is, if we don't train or prepare our children because we know that the children will be targeted, is that child abuse? Is that being a neglectful parent? Because we know that the children will be targeted. So if we don't provide them some kind of self-defense classes, some kind of classes to be able to know how to shoot a gun, is that parental negligence? Yeah, I agree. Abby says, but I'm a confused weirdo, so I don't know. I say they're easy to target as we can be, but most are on some savior shit. Yeah. A lot of this shit we bring on ourselves, and people just don't want to acknowledge it. And they shrug it off with these rudimentary explanations. And it's like, uh-uh, no. So my thing is, if you can't adjust, if you can't evolve, then guess what happens to you? Take a while, guess what happens to you? You die, you perish, you go extinct, you become genocided. So it is what it is. People making these choices about how it's going to affect their existence in the long term. Oh, well. You know what I mean? That's the reality of it. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we got 15 people watching. Shouts outs and thank you to everybody that's watching. And we got 15 likes. If everybody smashes that like button, we'll have 30. So let's get to 30. Help your boy out. So now here it says on Sunday, a group of national civil rights and justice organizations called on President Biden to convene a summit this week to address hate crimes and right-wing extremism. Clearly, nothing happened from that. Here we go now. The Reverend Al Sharpton said on Twitter that he had spoken to two members of Biden's cabinet and stressed the need for a summit. This needs a national response to rising crimes immediately. What in God's name does that even mean? What does that mean? That's a bunch of buck babble. That's a bunch of buck babble. What does that mean? What does that nonsense that Al Sharpton just said? Or that he just said? What does that mean? Now, there are some black people that actually feel that they have a right to live. Shouts out to them. I don't know what's wrong with a lot of the others out here, but some people actually feel that they have a right to live. And so the ones that feel like they have a right to live, they're going to the gun clubs, the gun stores. Black Americans flock to gun stores and clubs. I need to protect myself. No shit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You do. Yes. Thank you. You know what I'm saying? I need to protect myself. So much for that Martin Luther King shit. My question is, do you all agree you need to protect yourself? See, the operative word here is you need to protect yourself. You know why? Because I keep trying to tell y'all nobody's coming. People can get as mad as they want to. Don't get mad at me because I'm not the one that's not coming. Get mad at the people that you have faith in coming that don't show up. See, that's another thing that people tend to do too, is powerless people tend to displace their anger. You're getting mad because somebody's telling you about your reality and how warped your sense of it is. I didn't warp the reality. I just live in it. then the choice is very simple. I mean, like, this is the thing, it's priorities. The choice is very simple. Die, stay subjugated. Happy existence. Stop talking about white supremacy. You know what I mean? Very simple. It's not difficult. See, like, one thing is if people don't want to have IQ stigmas against them, then people have to stop behaving as if they have a low IQ. You know what I mean? Well, we don't want to do anything, but we want everything to change. That's not how that shit works. And literally everybody, including the people who say that nonsense, know that. And I got to agree with my man Carlton. He says, yep, have to protect ourselves by any means necessary. Abby says, I only have faith in myself lately. Sad but true. And honestly, to me, that's not sad. As long as you can trust yourself, that's somebody. You know what I'm saying? Carlton says, while we hope and pray, we become the prey. Yeah. I think people like being the prey. I think people like it. It's sick. It's weird, but I like it. There's some people that love that. They literally live to be victims of crimes and victims of white supremacy. And you know what I'm saying? They like to talk about how abusive it was to them and shit. And it's like, okay, if you like it, whatever. It's kind of weird, but whatever. So now here it says Janice Matthews always knew she would be a gun owner someday. She was raised in Alabama, where her family members rarely left their home unarmed. Still, after more than 3 decades in California, she wasn't in a rush to start shopping around at gun stores. Then the pandemic hit. Matthews started hearing rumors of food shortages and noticed store shelves emptied by shoppers panic buying everything from bullets to toilet paper. After her daughter moved out of their home, she was left with an empty nest and had lots of anxiety. I was thinking of what they predicted in the Bible. There we go. Bible. Who is they? Who is the they that predicted it? In my opinion, this is a very daunting task to literally correct and reprogram a large amount of people. I think the likelihood of that actually successfully happening is very low. And I think that that's another truth that people need to understand. I mean, listen to this. I was thinking about what they predicted in the Bible. And I thought I would have to protect the little bit I had. So one day in the spring of last year, she waited 6 hours in a line outside a Northern California gun shop to become one of the millions of Americans who became first-time gun owners in 2000s. Americans bought a record number of firearms last year. An estimated 5 million people bought their first gun ever between March and August, according to the National Shooting Sports Foundation, a trade organization, and that a number continued to climb throughout the year. Black Americans saw the highest increase in new gun ownership of any demographic, the NSSF found, with gun ownership in the group up by a staggering 58.2%. That's good. That's good. Because when they track those kind of purchases and they see that, now they know that people aren't playing around. We don't have much power, but firepower is power. Firepower is indeed power. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says, though Black Americans have a multitude of reasons for buying a gun, some new gun owners told The Guardian about stress related to the pandemic, while others about the anxiety of seeing scores of white protesters rallying downtown against lockdown orders or the election results. Now, this right here, in my opinion, this is some. See, like people always talk about a code, and I always tell people how I have no idea what the code is because I never read it. You know what I'm saying? I never seen it anywhere. I just hear people say on code as a response to some shit. This to me, if there was a code, if let's say that there's this hypothetical code, being scared is off code. Why would you have anxiety seeing scores of white protesters rallying downtown against lockdown orders or election results? Why are you having anxiety about white people? Why? I don't understand. Why are people letting other people give them anxiety? Are you serious? For what? That's the kind of shit that I read, and that shit like infuriates me. Your heart start beating fast, norepinephrine and epinephrine start coming from your adrenal glands. Your eyes start to dilate. Your nerves are on 10. Seriously? If that's how you are, if they do that to you, then take your place and stop complaining. You have a biochemical reaction to some people because they're around, because you're a coward, then you're on the right end of the food chain. My thing is, when you fatally defend yourself, or when somebody gets hurt really badly, or that a mob tries to lynch you and more people end up in the hospital, and when they get out they have colostomies or a leg not on attached anymore, that kind of shit tends to not happen as much. But you know what you have people running with their hands over their head as if I don't know what the hell's going on. And I mean, look at Ahmaud Arbery. It was only two guys. It was the dad and the son. And Ahmaud Arbery was running from him. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is that there's just an ongoing pattern of this silly, ridiculous, clownish, jester-like fear that people have. And I'm telling you, it's a bad look. It's embarrassing. People really need to come to grips with how embarrassing that is, with how bad of a look it is. It's a bad look. Oh my God, it's some white people with guns outside protesting. Seriously? Get over it. There's white people elsewhere in the country that have buttons to nuclear bombs. Who cares? This is a mental thing. Many had a common experience in the process of obtaining one. They were met with apathy and in some cases disrespect from white gun store owners, gun club members, and at shooting ranges. Well, I mean, you're going directly to do business with the people you say that you're going to protect yourself from. So, yeah, of course they're not going to be happy. I mean, that's common sense. This is what I'm saying. Common sense. Yeah, I got these issues. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's these motherfuckers that keep attacking me and treating me funny. So I'm going to go buy my shit that I'm going to defend myself with from them. Okay. Makes sense. And this is what I'm saying about certain shit. Certain shit I don't have any pity for. I don't have pity for stupidity, man. I don't have pity or tolerance or patience for no dumb shit. And the problem is too is that not enough people call this kind of shit dumb. You're so make this make sense. All right, seriously, make this make sense right here. These people have anxiety seeing scores of white protesters. Oh, we scared. We got to sing us a slave song because it's some white protesters outside with guns. And then turn around and go into a store with a white person full of guns to protect yourself. Like, do you see the level of stupid? Do you see how dumb that is? You're scared of white people with guns on the street. So to protect yourself, you go to white people with guns. This is what I'm saying about some of this shit. I don't have no fucking sympathy for. How can anybody? When is there going to be intellectual accountability? Everybody always talk about this, men be accountable for this and women be accountable for this. Where's the intellectual accountability going to take place of how backwards and stupid some people are? I agree. Facts. Honestly, I think dummies and criminals are coons too. If you're dumb, you're not improving any situations. You're not helping any damn thing. You're just dumb. You're useless. You're a carcass with a hollow head, contributing to nothing except for sucking up oxygen that somebody else that's doing something productive could be doing, could be using. And not enough people get told that about themselves. Because there's a lot of people out there like that, and they don't hear it enough. They hear people sympathizing with them. And my thing is deconditioning. It can't be conditioning if everybody is sitting up here talking about how they're aware of it going down. When you're conditioned, you're not aware of the condition. There's too many people that talk about it and then turn around and attribute it to conditioning. You can't self-diagnose conditioning. Conditioning is observational. If you've been conditioned, you're not even aware there's a problem. You know what I mean? I think what it is when people hear about some real ass shit, motherfuckers are not only genetically cowardice, but motherfuckers are genetically sensitive. Just can't tolerate it. That's one of the reasons why people want to be loved by racists so much, because it's just this thing about people just want to be loved. I just want to be loved and accepted. I just want to be liked, man. Get over that shit. It's overrated. So now here it says the cold shoulder they received has put, look, here we go. The cold shoulder they received has pushed scores to join black gun clubs. So basically what this article is talking about is that these people who went to buy guns because they were protecting themselves tried to buy guns from white stores and join white gun clubs first. They were rejected and then they went to black gun clubs. Let that sink in. More stupid shit. This is what I'm saying. More stupid shit. Habitual ball dropping, habitual bag dropping. They were met with, look at this, many had a common experience. They were met with apathy and some cases disrespect from white gun store owners and gun club members. The cold shoulder they received has pushed scores to join black clubs. So they're joining black clubs reactively instead of going to black clubs first. This is what I'm saying about collective delusion, collective just fashionable stupidity. Yeah, fashionable stupidity. So you're using the black gun clubs as a second option because white people are being racist to you. And then you try to work with white people to be able to defend yourself from white racism. You deserve everything that you're getting. I can't, like, the fuck? Like, I can't with that shit. These motherfuckers are asking for it and then just continue to keep asking for it. That's why you're getting it. Yeah, I gotta agree. They probably were coons to begin with by going to the white supremacist gun clubs. Yeah, no doubt. I bet you still to this day, even after going through all this shit with these white gun clubs, these fools still don't believe it's any racism. They still believe we're all in it together as men. they they still believe we're all in it together as men. You ain't in that gun club together with anybody as men now, are you? Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we got 14 people watching. Shouts out and thank you to all 14 people. I hope you guys are enjoying the video. And we got 17 likes. If everybody smashes the like button, we'll be at 31 likes. So please help your boy get up to 31 likes by hitting that button. Look at this. The cold shoulder they received has pushed scores to join black gun clubs and seek training from black experts. June 2020, when the riots were hitting different cities, my students increased, said Rogers Anderson, who is the commander of the Black Gun Owners Association in Oakland, Bay Area chapter, and conducts training sessions at Northern California shooting ranges. Now, 99% of my students are either single black women or black women with children who fear their safety, Anderson said. So the men ain't even out here getting guns, and everybody gonna be like, but they felons though. But that's because they felons though. You know, niggas be going to jail and shit. That's because they felons though. Black women is getting guns. Black women should be getting guns. Black women getting killed and showing up missing too damn much. People gonna keep going with that shit until they come up with a hate crime bill to protect black women from black men, which would just be the most ultimately atrocious and most embarrassing social calamity to ever happen to a race of people. That would be at the absolute bottom of the toilet of pathetic. But I wouldn't be surprised if that somehow gets put on the table at some point. So now here it says Janice Matthews is one of Anderson's trainees. On the morning of 18 January, Martin Luther King Day, of course, Matthews and her friend Robin Lewis drove an hour to the Richmond Rod and Gun Club for beginners shooting session. The duo was joined by a pair of veteran trainers, 5 other novice firearm users, all but one black. They spent the morning in a small field carved into a maze-like shooting range, filling cardboard targets with bullets from pistols and gunshots. They practiced aiming in small pockets of semi-enclosed space on the terrain and lined up side by side to practice with their stance, with Anderson correcting first-timers' finger placement before telling the class to pull the trigger. Make it make sense. Make it make sense, y'all. So now here it says Matthews sought out the training after being utterly disappointed last March when picking up her weapon, a 9mm handgun, selected on the recommendation of her brother. She found the store's clerk to be unfriendly, rushing her out without showing her basic skills and locking and loading the gun. Basic skills like locking and loading the gun. I mean, you saw who she bought it from. Like, again, the delusion is real. I mean, this is what I keep saying about what is the expectation. Like, when I say that shit, when I ask about the expectation, I'm dead serious. Like, what is it? I don't feel any comfort once I bought the gun, when I brought the gun home, because I didn't know what I was doing. That was the point of him being rude to you, lady. That was the point. You were the victim of racism. You dealt with a Karen because a Karen didn't like seeing you being able to protect yourself. I couldn't pull it out because if I did, the person would use it on me. Yeah, that's why you got the treatment that you got. Facts. She better go to YouTube and learn. Don't do that usual stupid ass black people shit. I got a gun and I just don't know how to use it. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I got me a gun and I just don't know how to use it. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'll tell you what you're gonna do. You're gonna be a victim of a hate crime. What's the fuck your ass gonna do? And then you're gonna be a celebrity on the news from a casket, just like everybody else. That's what your ass gonna do. I couldn't pull it out because if I did, the person would use it on me. Okay, well, knowing that, you might want to enroll in some self-defense classes. Might be a thought. Her friend Robin Lewis said she had a fear of guns ever since her brother was murdered in 2002. She went to the training on a whim. Guns brought back traumatic triggers. I had never handled one, and I had a fear of the unknown at first, Lewis said. During the training in Richmond, she fired handguns and rifles in a class that was half men and half women. Just looking at the world and all that's going on, I knew I needed to protect myself, Lewis continued. I didn't know shooting could be a hobby, but it's all about learning. The less you know, the more you fear it. Once she gets more training under her belt, she wants to buy a 9mm handgun. So now here they're talking about education from someone who looks like me. This was an afterthought. And again, like I said, when it comes to these kind of situations, I'm not Umar Johnson. I'm not about to sit up there and be like, "Oh, don't you dare go do business at a place that's not black." I'm a little bit more of a realist, as much as people hate that, because dealing with people that hate reality, and this is a reality, there's not a black gun shop on every corner. Now, what this article said about this woman here, if I recall correctly, it says she drove about an hour to get to her initial gun purchase. So she drove an hour to get to a white gun owner to get treated like shit. What I'm saying is, if there's a place 5 minutes up the street with the gas prices and it happens to be a white owned place, you shouldn't feel guilty or go around and make other black people feel guilty because they went up the street. I understand the need to support black businesses. That doesn't mean that you can't utilize convenience either. Supporting black businesses does a lot. And before people try to shame people about where they do business at, people need to think back to what Dr. Claude Anderson said about how we actively boycott our own businesses. That means that you're doing business primarily with white people and avoiding business with black people. If you're doing business and you're looking for black businesses first, but if a white business is more convenient, in my opinion, I don't understand why people have this ridiculous, weird ass, unfeasible double standard. listening to Umar have you on TikTok. You know what I'm saying? With a Persian girl talking to you and shit, and everybody asking what's going on. Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker says Professor Griff has been giving out free lessons for women with kids. That's what's up. Women, especially women with kids, need to take advantage of that if they can. That's backwards. You buy a gun and learn to use it so you're confident with your weapon. You know if it pulls to the left or right, the weight when you square up. Should be so backwards. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Abby. Like, that tolerance of that dumb shit can go on no longer. Like, tolerance of idiocy cannot continue. Idiocy is a cancer that needs to be biopsied. So now that you went to this gun shop and these white people made you feel bad, now you concerned about some education from somebody that looks like your ass. Black gun ownership, sometimes referred to as the black tradition of arms, has seen many iterations. After the American Civil War, newly freed black people formed militias to defend themselves against white supremacist violence. In the mid 20th century, civil rights activists such as Medgar Evers and Martin Luther King Jr. were known to carry guns, and groups like the Deacons of Defense in the South and the Black Panthers wielded their firearms publicly as part of their activism. And I mean, my thing is, you should wield your firearm publicly if you got one. You should. You ever notice how certain people take pictures of their firearms all the time with their family? There's a reason that they do that. So now here it says, in recent months, black gun owners with groups like the Not Fucking Around Coalition, oh Lord, in fact, have marched with long guns slung across their chest and handguns visible in their holsters during protests over COVID-19 restrictions and demonstrations demanding justice for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Guns have continued to fly off shelves amid the unrest following Donald Trump's election defeat and lingering pain around killing Americans, such as Ahmaud Arbery, who was shot and killed while on a run through a Georgia neighborhood. Shouts out to Wigga. What up with it? So now here it says, in times of uncertainty, people want to be able to have the means to defend themselves, said Robert J. Carroll, a law professor at George Washington University. People are worried that they are not being protected and they'll have to do it themselves. I mean, like the fact that that's a worry, and your first line of defense of yourself, your first line of defense isn't yourself anyway. That right there shows just how off people are. That right there literally sums up everything. That sums up everything. That provides an explanation for a lot of the dumb shit. So now here it says fear of crime and it being a hobby are not mutually exclusive. And the police are not always able to protect you. He said the police a lot of times are the ones committing the violence against you, is what they should have said right here. That's a kind of hate crime that's not recorded. Police hate crimes against black people. If you guys agree with that, give me a thumbs up in the chat. If you disagree, give me a thumbs down. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we got 17 likes and the 16 people watching. Shouts out to the 16 people watching. If everybody smashes that like button, we'll have 32 likes. So please help your boy out. Smash that like button so we can get to 32. So now here it says Nathan Adams, a 46-year-old Northern California business owner, said he supported California's strict gun laws before the 2020 election, which is interesting because that means that he supports the same laws that restricted gun access to the Black Panthers. So, but I mean, my thing is anybody surprised that this dude supported something that's counterproductive? We literally have a history of that in this country right now, ongoing. We support what's not productive. We support interests that aren't really in our best. Now, here's my question. Why do we do it, guys? What is you guys' explanation of why we continue to perpetuate such silly behavior? It's not the best idea, in my opinion, but my question is, why do we do it? But that intense focus on entrenched racism in policing led him to conclude that some law enforcement and some extremist groups are one and the same. People are tired of this stuff, me included. And if buying firearms is the route we have to go down to make sure that things don't get shady over my taillight, then so be it, Adams said after a session on the Richmond training ground. None of the traditional groups were all that appealing. They're always defending the Second Amendment unless it comes down to a minority. Then they're crickets. I don't want to give my membership dollars to them, he continued. I mean, my question is, why would you even consider it then? I mean, that's correct. But why were you even contemplating that? And I gotta agree. I don't think you fear power, Carlton. And see, my thing is those of us who are power hungry need to separate ourselves from the people that fear power. Because those people that fear power, when they come around people that are power hungry like us, they need to act like it. When I tell you shut the fuck up, just like you would if somebody else told you. You're scared of power. You got no right trying to act like you're gonna tell me anything. Sit your scary ass down. And that's how we need to be. That's how we need to present ourselves, to regardless of who it is, regardless of who the person is. Scared people need to let know you're a detriment. Sit your ass down and shut up. You're scared, you're dumb, you're not productive, and you're irrelevant. Right now, you're pulling opposite of the direction we're trying to go. That's the one thing that I really appreciate about all of my subscribers. Shouts out to my subscribers. My subscribers are some intelligent, power hungry people. And I agree with Wigga and Carlton. Fear is a liability. And Abby said, oh my God, that part. Gonna bark at me, but not them. Hate that shit. Yeah. And you see that shit all the time. All the time it happens. That's got to stop. You want to be scared? Stay scared. Act scared. You scared? Act scared. Don't act like you got nuts coming around me. Stay scared. Because one thing that you notice is that's what you notice people doing. That's how you notice people behaving. So now here it says, I would rather get the education from someone who looks like me instead of someone who says, let me help this boy. Echoed Delton Atkins, who attends training alongside Adams and said he had begun dabbling in firearms at the beginning of the pandemic. Now, I'm not mad at this right here. I would rather get education from someone who looks like me instead of someone who says, let me help this boy. Yeah, I did. Now, see this dude, Delon Atkins, he seems to have like the right mind state. This guy here seems to have the right mind state. It says that he attends trainings alongside Adams and said that he had began dabbling in firearms at the beginning of the pandemic. I experienced that and didn't like it. Being in an environment where I'm the only black person made me want to put my shield and armor up. So he said that he experienced that and didn't like it. So I thought he was smart, but apparently he must have went to the white ones first. Again, my thing is you're going directly to the people that you're trying to protect yourself from. Because, and when I say you're going to the people you're trying to protect yourself from, let's just make it clear for the dumbasses and the trolls. No one's talking about all white people or generalizing white people. What I'm talking about is that specific demographic of people who are NRA members and gun owners who uphold the Second Amendment and are allegedly pro Second Amendment, except for when it comes to Philando Castile. Usually those types are gun store owners. Usually those types are your NRA people. So we're going to go buy a gun from the very kind of person you're trying to protect yourself from. Doesn't make any sense. Not a very wise move. But then again, there's not a lot of wise shit going on collectively. So it's just consistent with what we got. No more, no less, except consistency. So now here it says mainly white conservative groups such as the National Rifle Association have dominated the Second Amendment conversation since the late 90s and into the new millennium. Tired of the NRA's failure to reach out to black communities. Oh, well, now they'll reach out to black communities to try to get gun laws passed against them. That's what the NRA will do. That's what the good old boys will do. They've done it before. The NRA is concerned about gun ownership when there's too many black people owning guns. And then them same people go and turn around and say, well, Joey Behar said that if black people own guns, they're going to increase the laws. She's being a racist. No, she wasn't being a racist. She's telling the truth. And she was giving some accurate accounts of American history. And we all know how much history triggers people. I mean, they're making laws to make it so that people aren't allowed to talk about it. So, tired of the NRA's failure to reach out to black communities and vilification of slain black gun owners formed their own affinity groups like BGOA and the National African American Gun Association. NAGA, to encourage black Americans to embrace their right to own firearms and educate them on gun safety. Their membership only grew amid killings like the one of Philando Castile in Minnesota and Alton Sterling in Louisiana. The value of these groups is learning with people who know your struggle and understand what's happening and what has been happening with this country, said Anubis Hiru, the owner of a 1770 armory and gun club, Denver, Colorado's first black-owned firearms store and simulator range. Black people and women of color like to come to our facility because we're not the typical redneck with the tattoo of the 3%ers. Now, I'd be careful with that whole women of color thing, because those women of color are more likely to deal with or even be married to one of these types with the 3%er tattoos. So this is that shit about opening those doors. Like, if this is some shit for black people, it's some shit for black people, and call it a day. Like, you don't need everybody involved in your family business. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense to say that some shit is for black people and then you turn around talking about some people of color. Like, so now here it says, why would you want the racist to be the only ones with the knowledge of the firearms? I mean, I hope this is like we're just throwing this question out here to try to make a point, because we know why. That's a good question for everybody in the comment section. What do you guys think about that question? Give me an answer for that in the comment section. Why would we want the racists to be the only one with the knowledge of firearms? Now, my thing is, everybody could have knowledge of the firearms if they want to. Just go get that shit. Go to the library, pick up a book, watch some YouTube videos like Bronze of God said. I mean, there's ways of getting that knowledge. It's not in a damn vault somewhere with the key thrown away at the bottom of the sea in a cement box. That's not what's going on. I mean, shit. Turn your phone on, turn YouTube on, and watch some damn videos and take some notes. The seed was in the ground already, so when COVID happened, there was fertile soil to reach black people and teach them basic firearm safety. There's empowerment. So pay very close attention. We're not talking about social justice. Now the Hill has mentioned empowerment. So that, again, pay close attention, because that's one of the things that they said, is that the mainstream media is going to start trying to use new black media terms and talking points. And here's another example. Now they're talking about empowerment. This is different than the stupid ass social justice shit that they usually talk about. Now they've said empowerment by name. Geneva and Johnson Solomon opened their Los Angeles gun store, Redstone Firearm, in 2016. They were met with appreciation from people who were jaded by their experiences with other gun store owners. The couple said, especially as the pandemic worsened and civil unrest and radical strife became more prevalent. They have received racist messages and threats since the store's opening, and the abuse has escalated throughout months of racial tension and social unrest. They have even struggled to retain vendors once they discovered that the Solomons were black. We continuously get death threats. We got phone calls and emails saying you NIGGRERs shouldn't be selling guns. So, I mean, this is the stuff that this really bothers and scares black people. White person calling them the N-word, that goes right to the soul. I mean, it's like, seriously? Jonathan Solomon said, I don't think that's going to stop, especially as more groups see black people are going to start shooting back and won't be easy targets anymore. And that's good. In my opinion, nothing wrong with that. That's another thing why people need to practice shooting so much. Make sure that you understand how to, hit the right places. Even with the racism they face, the Solomons say their business is growing, especially as more people learn they are black owned. They hope that once the spread of COVID ebbs and racial tensions cool, black Americans will begin to participate in the shooting competitions and have a greater presence throughout the industry. I think they can. I really hope that gun owners who bought them on a whim aren't really interested sell their guns. But for those who truly want to grow from beginner to intermediate, I want to keep that momentum. Geneva Solomon said, I want to see more black people get into competitive shooting. I want to see my family more bonding about it. Now, here's my question. What do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about this? That's the question. Solomon's particularly impressed with the rise in gun ownership among black women. So again, like, it's black women buying a lot of these guns to protect themselves. It's amazing that black women are having these conversations and making these decisions for themselves, she said. There may be an undertone of fear, but there's also empowerment to say you're not going to punk me. My thing is I find it fascinating that the male gun ownership isn't up. And people would just blame it on the prison industrial system and say we's the gods of felonies, but they're not talking about the people that don't have felonies. Like, I'm talking about the people that specifically are not in jail. So now here it says Janice Matthews has enjoyed training among other black people and hopes to also shoot with an all-black female cohort. Having gotten to grips with her handgun, she now plans to build her own rifle. She was deeply saddened by the recent high-profile mass shootings in Boulder, Colorado, and Orange, California. You guys remember the Boulder, Colorado shooting? I think it was in a Publix. Syrian guy shot, I want to say, like 10 or 15 people. You guys remember that? And she said she was especially angered by the racial implication of the murders in Atlanta, Georgia. Which murders in Atlanta, Georgia? Are we talking about Ahmaud Arbery? I don't like racism at all, so that shooting definitely made me mad. Listen, I'm going to tell people something. One of the reasons why black people don't like racism is because we're the victims of it. Here's my question. If we weren't the victims of it, do you think we would notice it? Do you think we would care? Do you think we would be as concerned? Do you think we would create these whole nonsensical movements and stupid ass talking points that have led nowhere that people say? Or would it just be business as normal for us too? The reason why white people don't acknowledge racism is because it doesn't affect them. It benefits their situation. The reason why we stay fixated on it is because it defines our situation. So my thing is people like to confront the racism because when you confront the racism, you can skip past the management of power dynamics, which is actually the real problem. So you could cry about somebody calling you the N-word all you want to. If you had shit right, you could fire their mom and dad. And the reason why black people worry about racism is because people don't have the power to be able to just fire their mom and dad. Oh, this little kid called me the N-word, bet. Your mom and dad don't have a job now. They both getting fired today. And see, and that right there, that's the kind of shit that makes me ask, is like, my thing is if that's the case, the only way to deal with this is that the idiots have to be sectioned off and pointed out so that there's two distinct groups. Those kind of idiots and criminals have to be distinguished as a separate subculture, or else we're doomed. Coons, same thing. You know what I'm saying? So she says she doesn't like racism at all. So that shooting definitely made me mad. Matthew said she wanted to continue her own training, she added, to develop as a responsible gun owner. Nathan Adams said he had planned to continue to attend BGOA trainings and be more involved with the group. Early in his gun ownership, he wondered if people began to stereotype him when he posted pictures with his firearm to social media. So again, this is it right here. He's wondering if people began to stereotype him. I mean, who cares? You're already stereotyped. If you're a black man, you're an idiot. If you're a black man, you're a criminal. If you're a black man, you got a million kids running around and you ain't doing shit. And if you're a black man, if somebody drops their wallet, you're going to steal it. Like, that's what it is until we change it. Just understand that. Well, I don't understand, like, why are people so just cowardly and self-conscious? You can't expect people to think shit about you that people don't think about themselves. And black people think some of the most disgusting shit about each other. So please don't think that it's a fair expectation to not expect other people to think about us the way that we think about ourselves. So the first step to empowerment is to act like we're humans towards each other, which seems to be, like, I don't know, graduate degree level difficult for a lot of people. But until that's like one of the first steps. You have to show an ongoing pattern of showing respect for each other, and people tend to not do that. So my thing is that all of this shit that we expect from other people, we're not even doing the minimum level of it. And nobody makes anybody feel like shit about being delusional about that shit. Everybody just want to be coddled, man. I'm sick of coddling people. I'm sick of hearing stupid shit. My man Carlton Way says, yes, we don't have a punishment mechanism. Part of the reason why black celebs can disrespect us and not make an apology. But if they say something bad about other people, they apologize. They get on their knees and open their mouth and make sure that their gag reflex is intact. That's what black celebrities do. Voluntarily, too, with the knee pads on. They are the worst form of pathetic. And see, now that hip hop is not really even, a genre that gets most of its dollars from black people, it doesn't even matter now. See, that's another problem. When you don't have resources, just because you stop showing interest in something doesn't mean that it went out of existence. A million black people can say, well, I don't even listen to Jay-Z anymore. Like, this is the delusion that black people live in when they do that whole, this isn't a black issue thing, or I don't mess with him no more. You think anybody gives a fuck what you don't mess with? You're a powerless little ant with no resources and no sway. The whole rest of the world has picked up onto this genre and are funding boatloads of money into them to allow them to continue to perpetuate their platforms, as well as be black and say the most anti-black shit in the world. No one cares that you don't listen to them anymore because they got a whole new fan base. We got this delusion of relevancy, and it's crazy to watch. That's one of the reasons why I laugh so hard when people talk about cancel culture with black people. Like, man, black people can't cancel anybody. Black people don't even cancel the black people that need to be canceled. Motherfuckers should have been canceled Charles Barkley. Motherfuckers should have been canceled Candace Owens. Motherfuckers should have been canceled Larry Elder. Motherfuckers should have been canceled Stephen A. Smith. Ain't no cancel culture around here. If we ain't canceling them, then who we canceling? We don't cancel criminals. Criminals need to be canceled. Ain't no cancel culture with us. You got motherfucking dummies running around on the internet talking about some damn cancel culture. Who the fuck we canceling? No one. We're not even canceling the appropriate people that need to be canceled. Let alone as if we had a luxury to just go around and I don't like what this person said. I'm going to cancel. I'm like, man, please. Delusions. Oh yeah, look at those concerts and you'll see white people in the crowd. And then you'll see somebody on Facebook posting about somebody talking about, I'm glad black people don't listen to them anymore. So nobody care about what 12.1 or 13% or whatever the fuck percentage we are of the population that don't have no power and resources doing. Nobody cares about that. The only thing motherfuckers care about is how you can entertain their ass and how you can make them some money. And if you can make them a lot of money, then that's how you make yourself a little bit of money. That's the only thing they're concerned about. That's the only thing they're concerned about. So now here it says, amid high-profile mass shootings, Adams wondered if he and fellow blacks marksmen were going to be lumped in with Proud Boy types. I mean, again, so here we are. We're positioning ourselves to wonder if the white world is going to look at us like some white men. Like, who cares? Oh, I wonder. I mean, like, why would that even be the first thing that came to your head? My thing would be, I wonder if white people will purposefully misunderstand me like how they purposefully misunderstood the Proud Boys. Oh, I wonder if they gonna think we some Proud Boys. They're gonna call you a boy, I can tell you that. I don't know about proud. So now here it says people are gonna put their own spin on it as part of a community that's used to being misconstrued. I can't concern myself with that. You are concerned with it. And this is a literal example of that stupid kind of talking that people do. You just mentioned the shit. You're extremely concerned with it because you want those people to just look at you like a normal human being. That is a huge part of your day that you care about deeply because you said it. But now you're going to turn around and say, I can't concern myself with that. You are. You already concerned yourself with it up here. This is that screwed up psychology that I'm talking about. We know why we're doing this, and safety is our number one concern. I still don't even know about that. I don't know about that. I do not know about that. You know what I'm saying? That has neither been confirmed nor denied. That has neither been confirmed nor denied, ladies and gentlemen. So my question for you guys, and I'm going to probably put out a little video about this too so people can, get a little bit more context about this, is would gun ownership work as a deterrent to decrease the rise of hate crimes against black people? That's the question. So hopefully when you guys are done watching this live stream, you will leave me in the comments an answer to my question afterwards. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate everybody watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. If you're not subscribed to the channel, you already know what to do. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you hit the bell. When you see your boys' videos on the home screen, make sure you watch them all the way through to the end. If you haven't hit the links at the end of the videos, hit them links at the end of the videos, and I will catch you all on the next one. All right, peace.